Okay, of all the people I want to talk to, well, this is one guy that I really want to talk to about a lot of different things because the National Taxpayers Union is, in fact, representing the taxpayers' affairs in a big way in a lot of different areas. Everything from a new net neutrality scheme that will affect taxpayers to lawsuits that are taking place around the country that could affect, competition, to the way that the IRS is vastly underestimating their own burden that they're putting on taxpayers and so on and so forth. Pete Sepp is the president of the National Taxpayers Union. We've had him on before. It's good to have you on again, sir. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you.
Let's talk about the lawsuit, first of all. The Department of Justice is suing Google. First of all, untangle this for the people. This is an antitrust lawsuit. Is that correct?
Yes, it's an antitrust lawsuit brought primarily by the federal government and nearly 40 states at the behest of Google's competitors, I would add. Netscape and others who have said, well, Google prioritizes search results over certain advertisers that have paid for it. The federal judge presiding over this case said, no, that's just competitor belly aching. We're not going to proceed with a government antitrust complaint. It left 3 out of the 7 main government arguments intact, however, and those 3 arguments are the central issues that are driving this trial right now. And we've heard a lot of interesting testimony and arguments over the past several days. Microsoft's CEO testified very, very recently, and he's quoted, this fellow, as saying, you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you search on Google. That's his lament. Primarily, I guess, because his search engine, Bing, doesn't have as big a market share. Again, that's not the problem that antitrust is supposed to solve. That's not the government's job to get involved in billionaires squabbling among each other about market share. It's whether consumers are being harmed. That's the doctrine that's guided antitrust for 40 years that the government seems to want to bury.
So let me play a little bit of devil's advocate, because I find it funny that the government is actually suing Google, because Google has done more to help establish a lot of the, how do I say this, the left wing that owns our institutions in America. Google has done more to further establish the left wing agenda in the United States, this sort of authoritarian, this sort of almost dystopian vision of what America should be in the future. Google was on record even during a meeting after Trump was elected where an executive said, we'll never let this happen again. It's pretty clear they put their thumb on the scale in past elections and probably plan to do so again. So there's a level of distrust for Google that I believe is warranted. That being said, to your point, just because a company is big doesn't mean that it's violating antitrust. And I guess that's the point you're making, that it's two different things. Aren't there some things in which Google could be considered a monopoly?
There may very well be by the end of this trial, but the government's going to have to prove it. And so far, to your point, they're going in a direction that is just totally bizarre. You know, if we're talking about a dystopian future, the government doesn't think that the current situation, where many folks might think is favoring the left and their political side of things, is even enough. The Department of Justice recently argued in court that a well-ordered superior search engine that helps to encourage competition is in Russia. Yandex. They somehow believe that because the Russian choice screen for search engines is well-ordered and encourages a variety of competitors, somehow that is superior to what we have in the United States. Well, the competitors in Russia are just the first folks who show up to the government with a big briefcase full of bribe cash. I mean, how can the government seriously argue this in court, that they're a model? And so it goes to show you that if you believe every conspiracy that the large internet and tech companies in this country are all trying to foist socialism on America, the federal government doesn't think it's enough.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. There are competitors to Google, but I will tell you that they are not. They are not as. Google has figured out the algorithms. They have figured out how to deliver to you as a consumer. I mean, Google's a verb in our society now, in our lexicon. You should go Google that, right? And so if I'm looking, and this is interesting, Pete, I'd love your thoughts on this. If I'm looking for information, say, on the COVID vaccine, okay, I go to DuckDuckGo. Not necessarily because I'm concerned about privacy, because that's the competitive edge DuckDuckGo has. But because I know they won't suppress the results to that search, right? Whereas if I go to Google and I want to even just find out if something that I've read is a conspiracy theory without being overweighted with the left-wing, media diatribe, all I'm going to get is one side of it. Now, the beauty of this situation is that I have an option. And so for certain things, I use Google because there's no better search engine when I'm looking for something innocuous that isn't political. If I'm looking for something that's political, I go to the competitor because the competitor doesn't do what Google does. And maybe that makes the point that you're making, right? That there is some other option for the consumer. We don't have to go to Google. And that makes this less of an antitrust issue.
Right, and the government is contradicting itself through its own actions because a lot of folks use Amazon for search. Well, lo and behold, the government is now suing Amazon. And they're saying, well, they're engaging in anti-competitive behavior by requiring their preferred sellers in what they call their buyer box to offer the lowest guaranteed price. Oh, that's what horrible behavior to consumers that they guarantee the lowest possible price. Yeah. And then they say, well, they've got a huge market share, but the government is defining what the market is. This is a classic tactic they use in mergers, acquisitions, all of it. They say, well, the market isn't the market as people perceive it. It's the market as we define it. And here they're saying, well, massive online retailers is the market that Google plays in. Well, no, because there are small online retailers, there are big box stores, there are click and mortar places too. And when you have the whole market of retail, Amazon's share is not monopolistic, but the government says it is because they've shrunk the market.
Right. Well, Amazon is such an interesting story to me. And I have my issues with some of their political stuff, but the reality is they revolutionized the convenience, and the pandemic helped them a lot, right? Because a lot of people that didn't realize how convenient Amazon was. I went on Amazon the other day. I was looking for a spatula, of all things. I just needed a new spatula. I had it before the day was over. I went on Amazon. It said this will be there by 4:00 today. And it was like $5. And I got a $5 spatula delivered to my house in the afternoon, and the shipping was free. So it was probably more expensive for Amazon to deliver the damn thing to my house in the same day than it was for me to buy it. But I mean, it's not a competition thing, because I could have gone to a local store and bought one, but I needed a spatula. I wanted it that night, and I was busy that day, and it met my needs.
Well, right. And that was a phenomenon a lot of the scaredy cats in the antitrust world didn't think about, that people use it in reverse, too. You might go on Amazon just to see what's available for
all the time.
Product. Yeah, you think you want something, and you put in the terms, and you say, oh, that. Say, I wonder if my local store will sell me that. And you go there and you buy it.
Yeah, I've actually done that multiple occasions. I've gone to see if there's something I'll think, I wonder if they make a product for this. I'll find it. Then I'll go and check and see if a place that I want to patronize locally has it. Usually they do. Didn't know they had it. Now I know they have it, and I buy it from them. You know, you're 100% correct that people do use Amazon in reverse, and I've done it before many times. Very interesting update on this. We'll get you back on again, Pete, because we're watching this case closely. But I'm always fascinated by what's going on with this. It's It's interesting to see the government arguing in such twisted pretzel logic.
Yeah, and it is pretzel logic, and it's not as good as the album entitled that. But we can talk about that in a future segment.
I love it. Pete, thanks so much, man. Pete Sepp is president of National Taxpayers Union. Again, watching out for taxpayers' interests. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, of all the